Episode 202, Parenting with the End in Mind, with Heidi Allsop.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
In this episode, Heather welcomes back Coach Heidi Allsop to discuss intentional parenting and fostering strong bonds between mothers and sons. Heidi shares her journey from social work to raising 5 boys and her mission to help moms raise sons with purpose and connection. They deep dive into the importance of parenting with the end in mind and setting intentional goals to guide children through their formative years. Heather and Heidi also discuss strategies to foster emotional resilience, independence, and essential life skills in boys, alongside balancing nurturing instincts with teaching moments. This episode is filled with insights, practical advice, and encouragement for parents navigating the challenges of raising sons. Enjoy this episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast today, and I'm happy to be joined by Coach Heidi Allsop. Hello, Heidi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
Good.
Heidi has been on with me before, and so if you've missed those, you should go back to listen to them because they are some great ones. There's some really awesome things that I have carried with me, and so I'm sure that you guys would find those helpful as well. But if you haven't caught those, I want you to know who Heidi is first. So before we get started, I'm going to have her introduce herself. Hey, Heidi.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Heather and I could chat forever. So
I know we had to finally stop and just say, okay, we have to start.
Yes. But I love what you've created here. You've created such a great community and you provide such an amazing service. So thank you for having me so much.
Thanks for being here.
So like Heather said, my name is Heidi Allsop and I have the great privilege and honor of I help moms raise their sons from middle school to manhood, like just make that connection and strengthen their relationships because that relationship is going to last them forever. And we don't want to break that relationship in those formative years because it really is hard to rebuild. So I help moms do that. And I graduated from BYU in social work and started working with troubled teens, which I loved so much. And then it kind of morphed into where I was just working with troubled teenage boys and from all walks of life. And so I did that for a long time and then started having kids. And I had one son and then another one and another one, 5 of them, all boys. And so I don't know, my life has just been surrounded by boys, and I love them so much. But I started noticing because I have 5 sons, we've had hundreds of teenage boys come in and out of our home over the years. And I started noticing the connection between those boys that were weathering those formative years better. They had a connection with their moms. And I started to become kind of fascinated with this. And so then I poured all of my further education, everything into this concept of this connection with these moms and these boys. And it has been so fun. Now this is what I do. I started a business that helps moms with their boys, but there is a connection there that is so crucial for these boys as they go through those kind of roller coaster years and get into manhood. I call it the open frontal lobe years where, their frontal lobe is wide open and they need that extra guidance from their moms. And if they're connected to their moms, they do better. They just do. They do better. So yeah, I'll talk all things moms and boys all day long. I love it.
I love it too. I have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm going to need to pick your brain sometime about that because he's my only one, but there's I don't know, there's this desire that I have to connect with him that's
Mm-hmm.
different than with my girls. And maybe it's just because my girls are very easy to connect with, and he's been a little bit harder for me. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I don't know if I should be taught. He'll never listen to this, so he won't know. But I'm like, is it because he's a boy, or is it he's my only boy? Is it just him? Like, I don't know if it's just him or if it's the boy mom thing, or I don't know. I can't compare
it's true. It's true, Heather, that it comes on both sides, because us moms, sometimes we're like, I just don't get boys. Like, I don't think like them. I don't know what's going through their brain, if anything, and I don't get them. And so we kind of start thinking that it's hard to connect with them. And then sometimes in reality, like, that's truth. They are sometimes a little harder to connect with. Their communication skills, their communication needs and desires are a little bit different. So we have to, as the moms, we work a little harder in a lot of cases to connect with those boys and to guide them and all of the things. And sometimes it takes some just little tips and tricks that they respond to in a different way than daughters do. And so, yeah, it is different. When you're like, it feels different. It's because it is.
Yeah.
They are different. Do
you have brothers, or do you have any sisters?
Yes, I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers.
Okay, so you got girls someplace along, like the sister connection thing.
There is, yes. And it's interesting because my one sister has 3 daughters, and wow, it is different. You know, those girls kind of need to be emotionally exhausted, and boys tend to need to be physically exhausted. But her daughters, they're talkers, and they'll talk and talk and talk and talk, which is it's so fun, but so very foreign to me.
Yeah.
Because my boys just, I mean, some talked more than others, but they just naturally weren't going to divulge everything.
Yeah.
The way girls will and do.
Or anything. That's how I feel like. Or anything. Do they ever divulge anything?
Sometimes I ask my oldest son, who's married and has 2 children, I say, are you and Olivia serious yet? Like, because all the time they were dating, I got nothing. So I'll say,
you've seen those memes that come up that are like, being the mom of a boy means having him show up one day with a girl and 3 children and being like, oh yeah, this is my wife and my children. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's going to be me. So
yes, it's possible.
Very possible.
It's possible.
Anyway,
but also, Heather, that connection, it's kind of like a daughter with her dad, right? That connection, these boys, they love their moms. They do. And they don't want to disappoint us. And there is a special connection too between moms and boys that is different and unique and really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me
bring it.
All of
bring it all day long.
It shouldn't turn into a coaching for Heather session, but
anyway. But I'm sure that resonates with so many people.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. All right. So you have this perspective of parenting with the end in mind. Can you describe that and tell me maybe a little bit about how that approach is different from the reactive day-to-day style of parenting that most of us have?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I have 5 boys, I've spent a lot of time at the grocery store. I'm going to do a little analogy here, Heather. A lot of time. Costco has all my money.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is that I would never go to the grocery store just happenstance. I make a plan and I think, okay, here are some meals that I want to make, and I make a grocery list and I take it to the store because I want to get these certain things. And there's nothing worse than coming home from the store having forgotten one thing.
Yeah, you're right. That's
right.
Terrible.
And the same with a vacation. When we go on a vacation, like we would never, I would never wake up tomorrow and say, oh, it's vacation day, without having booked flights and maybe a place to stay, like having some things to do. We make plans for things that are important. But what I found with my clients and with myself, to be honest, is that we just kind of parent day to day. We just put out the next fire and we don't really make a plan for our parenting. We just, like, they come to us and for some reason we instinctively are supposed to know exactly what to do with them. And we just put out fires and we hope that they learn the things that they need to learn by the time they leave our house. And while I love hope as an emotion, it's not a great parenting strategy.
It's just Come on.
Yeah.
How sad.
Yeah, isn't that like when they write the books, it's not like hope is not the key parenting strategy. It's a great emotion. So I love the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And one of his habits is to start with the end in mind. I love that concept with parenting. What if we parented with the end in mind? What if we decided that, okay, by the time this son or daughter leaves my house, I want to have taught them these specific things. It changes your parenting because those things then become top of mind. And you're paying attention to those things that are maybe those 10 things that are most important to you. And the other stuff you can kind of let go. It's a simpler way to parent and much more impactful because then you're parenting with intention. And so if you're parenting with the end in mind that, okay, here's what I want them to know when they leave my home so that I feel like they can become a productive, happy adult. What do I need to do when they're 10 and 12 and 15 and 17? And then you have a plan.
I would imagine that on that list of whatever, however many things are on that list that people decide they want, it's not just the simple know how to make their bed, know how to do their laundry. Like those are important things, but I'm thinking that you're probably thinking of other things there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's like the character traits.
Yes.
What are the character traits that you want? For example, one of the things that as my husband and I sat down, and by the way, this is going to be different for every kid,
right?
Because what works for one now, we did want one of the things that was really important to us is we wanted our kids to learn to become service oriented, like that character trait. We wanted that to be very much ingrained in who they were. And so because that was the top of mind, when I drive up the street with the kids in the car and see, someone taking their garbage in, and I could stop because it was top of mind. And I would stop and say, hey, run and help that person pull their garbage in. Or many times my husband would come in the house from work and say, hey, grab your gloves, boys. We're going to go help so-and-so. They're cutting a tree down, or, their sprinklers broke or something like that. And because we knew in the end, we wanted that to be a core value for these boys, then when they were 10 and 12 and 13, it was top of mind for us. And so, because we know as life coaches that where we put our thoughts is where our actions are going to go. And so because top service was top of mind, then we found opportunities everywhere. Our brains saw that, and then we could provide those opportunities for the kids, and then talk to them about how do you feel when you help our 90-year-old neighbor take their garbage in? How does that make you feel? They're always happier when they've done that, and we could make that connection. And we never had to sit down and have a discourse on service. It was just something that was part of their life.
Yeah.
Because it was important.
And I love that it also gives you an opportunity to connect some feelings there. Like, how does that make you feel? Because I think that for boys, that's also a difficult thing to do, is to connect with those feelings and feel them, and even feel like they can express what they are feeling. So you're kind of also giving them a space to do that.
Yes. Yes. Well, and if one of the things that you want your sons to learn by the time they leave your house is that emotional resilience, that emotional adulthood, that how to recognize and feel their emotions, it's a lot easier to do when they're 10 and 13 than if you sit down with them at 17 and say, oh, it looks like you're feeling this emotion.
Yeah. Would you say that, and I have no idea, but would you say that this is kind of a more important thing to do with boys than with girls? Or would you say it's the same? Like, is there something?
Heather, I just have never raised girls. I have two granddaughters now, which is amazing. I would imagine it's just as important. I really do, because there are some things you want your daughters to know when they leave your house too. And if you really sit down and envision, okay, when they graduate from high school, whether they're going to serve a mission or go to college or whatever they're choosing to do next, adulthood's hard enough. You don't want to send them off to college not having some of these skills that they developed over the course of their life. And here's the beautiful part, Heather, is that when you know that you've taught them, then they get to make the decision. And you can have some peace.
Yeah.
Knowing that they know, I taught them, they know. Instead of that panic at 18.
Right.
I remember when my son was going to his first dance, it was his first date. I was beside myself because I was thinking, okay, is he going to open the door? Does he know what to do? And I don't like that feeling of, did I teach him? Does he know? And that's like a panic parenting. And I don't like to parent from panic. And so this has been such a relief to me to not parent from panic, that no, they know, we've taught them, and now they get to choose.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, and panic comes from fear, right? And anything that we do from a place of fear never really is the same and has the same effect as if we're doing something from a place of love and peace.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Parenting from fear that's when we start manipulating, when we yell, when we, bribe and all of those things, because we're parenting out of fear. We're scared.
Yeah. I love this concept because, I mean, most people who are listening to this are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we are not strangers to like having the end in mind, right? Like having a future focus. And so I think that makes it a little bit easier for us to maybe project and think about those things that we want and aspire for our children to be able to do and be as adults. What are some of those things that you see that are qualities or values that you think would be, not that I want to tell people this is what should be on your list, but I think it might be a good idea to kind of give some people some things to think about or to get the juices flowing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love too that you brought up that we are a future focused people. And if we think about it, that our heavenly parents, like who else do we want to model our parenting after, right? Our heavenly parents send us here with the end in mind. I mean, that's their whole parenting plan, with the end in mind, right? The whole purpose, God says his whole purpose is to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man. Our end is to get back to them. And we know that from all that we learn in the gospel. We know that is their parenting plan, and we have all the tools and all of the things necessary, but they never lose focus of that. They're like, no, this looks hard right now, but this is going to get you where we need you to be in the end. And so they do that in such a beautiful way without taking away our agency. And so if we model our parenting after our heavenly parents, we really are, we want that end in mind, and we don't want to take the agency away. So I just love that the concept of parenting with the end in mind is really an eternal concept. I mean, think about President Nelson, his think celestial, keep an eternal perspective. That's the end. Keep that in mind. And it makes all of our decisions better and easier and less complicated. So, okay, there are so many ways that we can tangibly make this personalized parenting plan. And I actually have created a guide. I'll give it to you. You can put it in your show notes. Perfect. But it's a guide with several different components. In less than an hour, you can have a personalized parenting plan for your unique family, using your strengths, using the strengths of your kids. And they're set up in sections. So emotionally, what do you want them to know emotionally by the time they leave their house? Financially, what do you want them to know financially? How to manage finances, how to maybe invest. I don't know. Everybody's going to be different on that, but isn't that a fun thing to teach your kids when they're young? Yeah. Physically, what physical things do you want them to know? What do you want them to know about nutrition, about exercise, about taking care of their bodies? Mentally, like what are some things that you want what are some books you want to have read with them or to them? Spiritually, obviously, what do you want them to know by the time they leave your house about God, about Jesus Christ, about covenants and the blessings that can come from them? So we can take a concept and then make 2 or 3 things that we want them to know by the time they leave. And then now we have this parenting plan that all of our decisions as we go aren't based on, I hope they get it somewhere. It's no. I know exactly what I want to teach them and how. It makes it
I,
simple.
I love the focus because I know and my kids are, most of them are out of the house now in college, but it's so overwhelming. Like I can remember that feeling of like, there's so much that I feel like I need to teach them or,
Yeah.
and yes, there is a lot, but when you can kind of constrain it down to looking at it in
Mhm.
pieces like that, it seems so much more manageable and bite-sized and not nearly as overwhelming.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's like when you walk in the grocery store, there's everything.
Yeah.
If you don't have your list, you could get lost in every aisle. That's why
Yeah.
we make a list. These are the things that I need for the meals that I'm going to make.
Yeah. And
And we,
so easy to get distracted. Oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. Right. Like, I
yes.
mean, that's like the story of my life. I get distracted on everything. Oh, I should probably share this with my kids. And there's so many things that I end up not sharing anything because
Mhm.
it's just like, I can't remember what all the different things are that I thought
Yes.
of. Right.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's too overwhelming. And when there's too much, we end up not doing much.
yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's such an oxymoron, but it is the truth.
Mhm.
What have you found to be some of the common challenges or mistakes that parents face when they try to adopt this long-term approach?
Yeah. Well, and this is really a very important part is that, listen, our kids aren't going to want to do this. They're
Nope.
not, they're not going to cheer and jump out of bed and make their bed so they can learn the next thing. And they're not supposed to, right? They're going to push back. That's their job and they are really good at that. And that's okay. That's okay. We don't want to give up because our kids aren't buying into what we're doing. We we don't have to announce to our kids that, hey, boys, we just really at 18 want you to be service oriented. So we're going to do every service project that comes to mind. No, that's not going to work.
Oh
It's
no,
just
that'll
this,
backfire.
yeah, every time.
Hmm.
This is for you as the mom or the dad. And we'll talk in just a second about maybe some ways to incorporate our kids into this, but it's for you. It's for your confidence. It's for you to show up with intention as you raise them. And they're going to push back, and that's okay. But imagine the confidence that comes from knowing that you have a plan and that regardless of the choices that they make, that they know that they've been taught with intention and that hopefully someday those things will help them succeed into being this amazing adult that you know that they can be. And that gives you a peace and a confidence, Heather, that I just don't know comes in any other way.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Like there's a calmness
Mhm.
that comes from that, and
Mhm.
so many things are different when it's just the same thing, right? It's the calm versus the panic. It's just being able to
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
make
Well, and imagine
intentional.
how nice it would be to kind of be somewhat on the same parenting page as your spouse or
Hmm.
your co-parent, that everybody's working to the same goal.
Yeah.
And once again, that your kid is not going to be on this perfect trajectory towards that goal. And that's okay because you know where they want to end up, right? Like our heavenly parents, they know where they want us to end up, but they also knew we were going to fail over and over and over again. But they don't panic when we fail. They say, oh, remember, we knew this was going to happen and we've got you. We'll take care of you. That's okay. Now get back on the path and let's go a little further. And we're going to fail again. It's the same thing we're going to do. We've
Right.
got this plan and we know they're going to push back against it. We know they're going to fail. Some kids are going to get some concepts better than others. That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of more about us and our intentions in parenting than it is
So
about them being obedient.
yes. I just like a little caveat that I'm going to throw in here. I was the queen. I've gotten better at this, but I was the queen at being able to use well-intended things to create some tension between my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, well, this is obviously the things that we want our children to learn how to do. And so you should obviously think the same way or think that our children should
Uh,
like learn the same things. And so if you don't feel that way, like there's something wrong with you, right? Like that was like,
you're not doing it right.
yeah, there's something wrong. So I guess I would just say I have learned as I've gotten older that I can't use well-intentioned things to be like a weapon in my
No.
relationship. And I would think that I was like justified in doing that. And no, like anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say other than
Well,
just be careful not to like let
yes.
that cause unintended tension between you and a
Mhm.
spouse.
Yes, because I love that you brought this up, Heather, because as our sons have gotten older, I've realized that some of those things that I pushed back on my husband against, thinking that I knew right, are actually those things that have helped those boys as they have gotten older to take a stand
Yeah.
and to be, the man that they needed to be in these certain circumstances. And so I love that you said that, because as moms, we think we know all the things our kids need. That's why sitting down and really listening to that spouse, that co-parent, and saying, okay, I I can see that you feel really strongly about this. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Like,
And
let
be
absolutely.
open-minded, right? Because
Yes.
I think you like it was the same for me. The things that I really was pushing for,
Mhm.
I have come to see that, oh, that was so unimportant in the
Mhm.
scheme of things. And the way my husband's focus was actually a better approach than the way, but
Mhm.
anyway, I wish that I could have been more open-minded then. And a lot of that has come because I have done a lot of work in understanding our heavenly parents' true nature and who they are,
Mhm.
and that they weren't going to be like we weren't living a checklist, right? But I don't know. I think you're absolutely right. Like that open conversation, but an open-minded conversation. Be willing to really actually listen rather than just kind of placate and be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can see what you're saying," but
Yes,
not really
yes.
listening.
Whatever, right? Well, and it's interesting because I think as women, we tend to be a little more nurturing. And so sometimes when our kids needed some correcting, I would be a little more nurturing and he would be a little more, no, no, no. This is the way it is. And I'd pull him in the other room and say, come on, we can't be like that. And he'd say, yes, we can. And for me to have that open mind and to listen to that and actually to say, okay, you need to go in and have this conversation with him. And if I'm in there, I'm going to start softening it. And it looks like they need this harder conversation. And it is what they needed at the time. Absolutely what they
Yeah.
needed at the time. And so, yeah, I'm so grateful to be able to have had that back and forth. And for all of our single parent listeners out there, like you're doing the best you can. And the kids know that. They do. They don't want to disappoint us. They
Hmm.
don't, and
Yeah.
they're just confused and trying their best as well. And so gratefully, our best is good enough. It is.
Aren't we grateful? So
Mhm.
grateful for that. Thank you for letting me take us on
Yeah.
a little bit of a tangent
I
there.
love your
But
tangents. Yes.
so for parents who are new to this idea, where's the best place to start? What would you say like they should do to start shifting kind of their mindset towards parenting with the future in mind?
Yeah. Well, I think just starting to think about it, just starting to kind of mill it over. When I talk to my clients, I say, start marinating in this thought. When they leave your house, really picture them when they leave your house, because they will. And that's the hope, right? We want them to be independent, functioning
Such a
adults.
double-edged sword. It's the
Yes.
hope and it's also the
Yes, it
heartbreak at the same time.
hurts. It does. It
Yeah.
hurts. But start thinking about that. Start thinking about your experience when you left home and what were the skills that you appreciated having and what were some skills that you think you could have used at that time. And then just start jotting them down. Go get this is I mean, it's a free resource. It's a fillable guide. It's already there for you. It's so easy. And just start thinking about what's important to you and what do you feel like would be important to your family. And it's interesting. We have one son. He and his wife are in Enid, Oklahoma, at flight school for the Air Force. They graduated from BYU. She's a teacher, and we just had conference, and we always, as a family, made conference crepes. We just did. And so it was so cute when she sent a picture and said, Easton woke up this morning and first thing he did was start making crepes. And I just think our kids, they want to follow along in the traditions that we create. And sometimes those traditions can be our greatest teachers. So maybe if service is one of those things you want to teach your children, traditions around service are those things, those concepts that will be most easily learned and most easily carried on.
Mm-hmm.
So think of ways that are unique to your family that you think would take this lesson and help them perpetuate it the most and make it fun. This should be fun.
Oh yeah,
This
fun
should
is
be a lot.
key,
Fun is
especially if
key.
you're
Yes.
involving teenagers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah.
And
So
every family is going to be a little bit different, but we know
yeah,
we need to start asking ourselves instead of looking outward to everything else, start looking
yeah,
inward. What does our family need?
yeah.
What are important things? What are 5 important things that when our kids leave, we know we taught them?
Right. Which I think is the most important thing, right? To focus inward on your family. It's a really big trap to look to other people. Like I think it's not bad to be like, oh, I love the qualities that I see in those children and that I see
Mhm.
in those teenagers or whatever. But to say like that means I have to do it exactly how their parents have done it
No.
is false and actually
Mhm.
won't work, right? Because you'll end
Well,
up like trying to create something that is not yours. And so then
mhm,
you're trying to create their family and not your
mhm.
family. And
Exactly. Creating a plan it makes parenting easier, not
oh,
hard.
absolutely.
Like there's nobody's keeping score, nobody's grading this. There's not one right way. So every family is so different and it makes parenting easier. It does.
Yeah.
It just makes it more simplified. It's like our boys, they love their athletics. They love playing sports. And whenever the drama would come up on whatever sports team, it was so nice to realize that in my own mind, hey, I'm not trying to raise professional athletes here. I'm trying to
Yeah.
raise missionaries and good men and good fathers and good providers. It made it easier to let all the drama go and to whatever. It doesn't matter what's happening on the sports team. That's just something fun along the way
Hmm.
to where we want to go. And so it makes things easier.
Such a good focus. Yeah, you're right. And it's back to that constraint and that taking away the overwhelmtion. Do you like that word? That's a word
Yes,
that I
that's a
like to
great
use.
word.
Overwhelmtion, something that I'm really good at like recognizing. So, all right. I mean, you've shared a few personal experiences with us or stories. Do you have anything else you want to share with us about, ways that you have seen it in your family and with your boys?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that when it's important to include the kids in these things for a couple of reasons. One, because they feel this move and this drive to improve and this independence, especially when they hit middle school. They want this independence, so they want these skills. They're not going to ever say, "Mom, I want some independent skills," but you can see that their need for that is growing.
Hmm.
And the other thing is when kids do things, new things, hard things, adult things, they gain more confidence. So if you want your son or your daughter to gain confidence, help them do something that they haven't done before. Help them do something that's hard that they feel is like a grown-up task. So I never tried to implement new things during the school year. It was just too chaotic. We had school and sports and things like that. But about 3, maybe 4 weeks before school would get out, I'd get the papers out. My kids would make fun of me. They're like, here comes mom with her papers. But I would sit down with each one of them and say, what's something you want to know how to do that you don't know yet? And maybe it was, running their lawn care business or maintaining a car or cooking certain meals. But I'd say you need 3 things here for the summer that you want to learn how to do. And maybe it was going and learning how to camp or fish, or it was a million different things.
Right.
But when they were part of the plan, then they were kind of excited to learn that thing and to execute it. And I didn't have to teach them all the things. I don't know how to fish. And so I would get someone to help teach them how to do that. And so, but incorporating them into some of these things helps them feel like they're growing, and it boosts their confidence in a really great way. So summers was when I did most of this like intentional, some of those things were back of mind, but the intentional things that took more time, I would do in the summer. It was too hard to do in the school year. That's okay. We could fit it in. You fit it in when it works best for you
Right.
and your family.
And I feel like it offers the opportunity to incorporate it with fun things because you have the time to do that. And that was where I felt like we were pretty intentional. There was a lot of things that, that we were intentional about doing it, but we did it in different ways. There were things we wanted our kids to learn, but it was like, well, they're going to learn this by sitting on a dirt bike and getting themselves to the top of that
Yes.
mountain, right? Or like sitting at the top of a rapid and getting themselves through it, sort of thing. It's kind of the direction that we took a lot of ways. Well, my husband, I was a willing participant.
But it's true. It's
But
true. And they had fun doing it. And then you can make
yes.
those connections with them.
Yeah.
And one last thing too, Heather, is that it's not too late. If there's any moms at home thinking, oh, I should have done this. No, you did this. You didn't know you were doing this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is so good to actually go back and reflect and find the ways that you have done it. But I'm also thinking, I said I have most of my children don't live at home anymore. And so it's changed, right? Like my focus is changing. And as we were talking, I thought I want to download your freebie because I want to be intentional about this next phase in our life. And it's not that I'm their parent anymore, but I want to have certain ways that I show up for them, and I want to be intentional about it and have it be with reason and purpose. So anyway.
Absolutely. Because especially those young adult years, they're still learning. They're still learning. And we still have things to teach them in this fun, not in your face way. And so it's never too late. It's just not.
Yeah.
And we just want to live this intentional way. And I look at the way that my parents and my in-laws have grandparented my kids. Like this would work just as well with grandparenting.
Yeah.
And what are some things you want to do? What is legacy you'd like to leave as a grandparent? So it's never too late. It's never too late to work on this concept of what do I want to leave? How do I want to show up for my family? And then we do it.
I love that. And it actually kind of gives me, this can be a time of life, and when your kids do start leaving, and I don't mean to focus it on me, but I know there's a lot of moms that struggle when that kind of job description changes from having kids at home all the time to, this stage where they're starting to leave, and it can be really hard. But if you give yourself something intentionally to like, okay, this is my job description has changed, and I want to be intentional about this next stage, right? And I don't know, it kind of gives me some new enthusiasm and not to feel so like sad maybe that things are changing. It gives me something to look forward to. So
yeah, we're never finished being a parent. We're not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun.
It just looks very different.
It looks very different. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Oh, Heidi, thank you so much. And
thank you.
I think I've probably said this before, but I have a sister that is named Heidi as well. So
that's right.
Heather and Heidi, it just kind of flows off of my tongue because
we make a great team, Heather.
Grouped together. She lives next door to me. Her and I are only 14 months apart. And so we've just always been Heather and Heidi, or my great grandmother would call us Hortense and Hilda because she would like to tease us with the ages.
How fun to have your sister next door.
I know. We've raised our kids together and it's been a dream. So
that's amazing.
All right. Before we go, tell people how they can connect with you.
Yes. I just started a podcast. So excited about that. It's called Raising Boys, Building Men. So go find that on all the podcast ways. And then my website is HeidiAllsopCoaching.com. And I'm on Instagram at Heidi Allsop Coaching. I'm everywhere. I'm very easy to find. Come find me. Okay. Tell me what you're struggling with, or something even in this podcast that resonated, that's kind of given a new enthusiasm about parenting.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And, I have one more thought really quickly. I think sometimes as parents, we think we have to teach our children all these things ourselves. And like you said, like you can reach out and you can find other people. I think there's some things that I have struggled in helping my kids learn. And there are coaches who work with teens, and I'm sure you've worked with teens yourself. But I've sent my kids to coaches under the guise of, hey, I know you're kind of struggling with the basketball team this year. Like, I want to have you see with this person because I think they can help you with these tools. They have no idea that like I had an underlying, like, there's some things I want you to learn, and I know you're going to learn it by visiting with this person. Anyway, I just kind of
Yeah.
want to throw that in there. Like there is
Yeah.
a lot of resources for our teenagers that, because sometimes we don't feel equipped to teach them and they don't want to learn it from us.
Well, they're learning so much from us.
Yeah.
To have someone else come in and teach them in a way that they're maybe not used to, it's just going to make their brain work a little harder. They're going to
Yeah.
learn it a little better.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just needed to throw
So
that
good.
out there. So,
So
all
good.
right. Thanks, Heidi. We'll link to
Thanks
all
for
those things
having
in the
me.
show notes. I am going to go find that right now, which I
Yeah.
hope that I already have it. I hope that I
I
have
hope
it so
you
I
do
can go
too.
download it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me know
Oh,
what you think.
okay,
I'm
I
thrilled.
will.
Thank you for
Thank
having me so
you.
much. All right.
We
You take
will
care.
see you later. And everybody else, we'll see you soon. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.